There we go. Linda, show your beautiful face. And welcome everybody to Implementing Vision 2024, because implementing is where it's at. We can have all the beautiful visions in the world. If we don't implement them, they're just nice, sweet, hot air dreams, right? That's what this is all about. So we want to see what we can do to implement and the little steps we can take so that implementing becomes easy and natural. And also we want to see where life happens and implements us in ways that we didn't expect, and how to reinterpret what happens to us as a step in the right direction. So that we always feel like we're in control and in charge, because even when life throws us bones or sticks, right, to stumble, we turn those sticks into tools to enhance what we want to do. So, you know, that's always people accuse me of positive thinking. How dare you? It's like such a crime. All right, so the Mastermind Implement Vision 2024 is all about becoming more authentic, living and implementing what you really feel you want to do. And I'm going to go straight into practicality. If you all have a notepad and a pen, or want to put it in the chat down here, I'm going to put the things in the chat that we want to quickly note down. So, and of course, those of you who want to, and I know this is going to be up on YouTube later, so that if you're not here live, you can still go through the same steps. And you need to know that in my Evolve system, I help you through all these steps, and the group helps you through all these steps. And Linda can tell us a little bit more about that later, because she went through the program. All right, so now take out your notepads and write down your 3 most important goals or achievements or changes, right? Just pick 3 that really seem important to you. So if I close my eyes, of course, everything is always so important in our life, right? I will say my book, my university, my fitness, right? Even though there's a lot more on my plan. So stay with us and write down those notes, or in your mind, for Monique, who's not able to write right now, in your mind, repeat to yourself, I want this and that and the third as the most important things. And I don't want you to like argue with yourself for a long time. Just Andrea is back in. Yeah. Just close your eyes and allow what comes into your mind first to be written down. When you make plans, the beauty about plans is, as long as you have a plan, you can always revise it. You can always adapt it. You can always alter, reinterpret the steps, etc. But having a plan is what makes it so much easier to walk through life, because you're giving yourself structure. All right. And I'm going to put this in the chat. So 3 goals. Can't type either here. Goals. 2, 3 first steps. 3, the milestones to celebrate. And, oops, for other improvements. So that's a list of just other things you want to change. For example, I want to allow myself to stand more in my authority, right? I tend to acquiesce and to like, yeah, okay, maybe, you're right there, which is fine, but standing in our authority is also very important. Standing in, I am right for what I see. I am authentic. I am right for what I see. Okay, so these are the 4 points to note down. Can you see in the chat?
Yes.
Awesome. Why don't I see them in the chat? Oh, because I put my participants list on over it. Where do I put this thing?
Johanna,
Yeah? Yes, Andrea.
is this also in the email?
Wait, who's talking? Linda is talking. Say
No,
that again, please.
It wasn't me.
Was that Andrea? Andrea, you frozen again. Oh, Andrea, your connection isn't working very well. Sorry about that. Just keep trying. I have this thing with my colleague and friend Nell, who lives up in the mountains. And whenever we have a telephone conversation, we have to like dial back to each other at least 5 times during a conversation because the call always drops. So that's just par for the course. Shirley is back. Okay, Shirley says her microphone is not working right now, so that's why she hasn't said hello. Regina is back. And here we have, who just came back? Linda, Shirley, Andrea, Monique, Regina. Okay, everybody is back. All right. Do you have your 3 goals? Just put yes in the chat. So, book, university, fitness is for me. Now, the 3, I assume that you all have put down your three goals, right? Yes, yes, I only have 2 yeses. Not everybody can put their yeses in there. I'm just trying to put my participation somewhere. Okay. Next, first steps. 3 steps in the right direction for, sorry about the sun coming in here, but that's just what we are dealing with when it's a sunny, cloudy weather change. All right, the 3 steps you can take toward one of the goals or all 3 of the goals. So for me, the 3 steps include a weekly routine. So that would be routine, especially for fitness, to really stick to my routine, which is very hard for me because I am so averse to any regimentation, right? It always feels like prison to me when I have to do something at the same time every time, ba-da-da, da-da-da. It's a military approach. but it helps us enormously. Give yourself a little slack, but then make up for it on another day or at another time, or do an evening workout when you've scheduled it for the morning, etc. So routine is one step in getting all three things accomplished for me. For you, it may be something else. For you, it may be doing affirmations every day, or for you, it may be writing letters to your congressperson, or, you know, whatever it is that you feel is creating accountability for yourself. Who did we lose? We lost Andrea again. Okay, but she's back in. All right. What could be a second step for step toward achieving your goals? For me, it definitely is writing letters to podcasters that I would like to interview with. I mean, either they interview me or I interview them. So that's for me a big step toward all three goals, because of course, when launching a book, that will become even easier, but even before then, I have to make those connections. So, and step number 3 for all three main goals is, in my case, pursue the land. I just found another large piece of land that would be great for our project, and the seller is willing to collaborate. I'm going back there I've discussed it with my architect and so forth. So that is definitely pursue the land is my step 3. Even though it seems a little irrational, because that's not going to bring immediate income, but it's going to manifest something on the soil that I feel needs to be manifested. The internet can always get crashed, you know, with one little interference from another country that we're trying to mess with, right? And our entire internet goes kabonk. But a piece of land is much harder to go kabonk when we pursue implementing something. So what are your 3 steps? Okay, Monica's saying, no, I don't know if they are achievable. Well, whether they're achievable or not, you will only find out once you take steps toward them, no? So take the steps. All entrepreneurial existence, all inventors, all creators have to take steps toward a goal to find out whether those goals are achievable. And many of us have long years of experiencing that we seem to fail, but in the failure, we've learned something. So the next time we step into the ring or we step forward, we are better equipped to get further. Well, of course, it always doesn't depend just on one other person. It depends on so many circumstances falling into place, right? And if it's your goal and not the other person's goal, then the question is, what's more important? Maybe you have to shift your goal to something that the other person also wants, and then that becomes your goal. If the other person is not as important as your goal, you have to say, okay, this one I'll do on my own. Thank you, but you can't be in on it. So those are decisions, of course, that you have to make, but it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be the goal. The goal being, like I just said, either adapting to the person or the person having to adapt to you. And if they can't, so be it, you find another way. I just a few minutes ago before I started the mastermind was saying to my son's girlfriend, kind of almost like my daughter-in-law, you know, every problem always has at least 25 solutions. You just have to open your mind to finding ways around through other means of overcoming, etc. So there's never a definite no to a problem you want to solve. Sometimes it can only be solved in your imagination and not on this planet. Of course, those are things when we try to override physics and gravity, we may not succeed. You know what I mean? That too, of course, happens where we just have illusions about what's possible on the planet. But everything that is within the realm of biology and physics and intention can be done. So think about whether that's someone else, whether you need to adapt to that someone else because that someone else is important. So adapt your goal to them, or allow yourself to pursue the project with or without them. All right. Then very, very important, number 3 on my list here is celebrating milestones. Celebrating milestones, and sorry, I'm going to close this little cloth curtain thingy a little bit more. Okay, that's better. So you can see my face as opposed to that bleached out thing, blotch. Okay. What I'm saying is that we need to celebrate every step that we have achieved. So even though I haven't even secured the funds for the purchase of the land that I've just discovered, I'm celebrating the fact that there is another piece of land because we already lost one, where the seller is willing to work with us and where the land has incredible possibilities and a beautiful view over the entire Hudson Valley. It's just breathtaking and that kind of thing. So even if this one also fails, I'm celebrating the fact that it exists and that there is the possibility. And that means that even if this one again doesn't work out like the previous one, there will be another possibility. So, and that is true for all of life. There will always be multiple possibilities if we allow ourselves to see them, if we don't get fixated on my this way or the highway kind of thing, right? There's always another way. So therefore, celebrating milestones becomes very important. Celebrate every little step. I'm celebrating myself that I'm sitting down every day now and write at least one little paragraph for the book. The core of the book already exists, but it has to be expanded upon. It's my educational thesis. And therefore, I must, again, establish a routine. And of course, I tried to make that routine. Every morning at 10 o'clock, I spend an hour writing the book. Doesn't work in my life for so many reasons, because I also have family living in my house who have all kinds of agendas and emergencies, right, to deal with. But I make sure that whatever time of the day, I write something on my book. How is your experience writing your book, Andrea? Now you're actually really clear and beautiful.
It's challenging. It's challenging for the schedule. And so what I'm thinking about now is having like some amount or some pages every day, and then setting aside one day or maybe even 2 days where I have a big chunk of time. like maybe not the whole day, but, 4 hours one morning when I don't have to be anywhere, or in the afternoon or something, so that I can double down and get stuff done. So I'm going to try this 2-pronged daily, and then maybe 2 bigger chunks during the week. But I haven't got my schedule. I'm doing that now, right? That we're here now is the scheduling time.
Awesome. Beautiful. Now, I know from Andrea that she also has the challenge of a 96-year-old mother, right? Who has all kinds
95. We talked about
95.
95 for so long.
Yes. All right.
Right.
95-year-old mother. And you never know what responsibilities come at any time. So again, it's important that you allow yourself the flexibility, even if you have to go down there and be with your mother, and that's a 2-hour travel. What do you do in the 2-hour travel? You put your phone on a holder in your car and put it on record in whatever program you want to use. You can even use Messenger on Facebook or something, and record that chapter verbally and have it transcribed, because all our devices do that now. So that's
Right.
a way of getting your pages done by not having the excuse, well, I couldn't sit down and write because I had to be in my car, for example, right? It's just another
Right.
of finding that way through water adapts to the circumstances that are in its way, right? And still get
Right.
down
Right.
the hill to the ocean. All right. Linda, do you want to chime in with what your goals and milestones are? Regina, do you want to chime in? Anybody can just chime in.
All right. You want me to, I'll tell you what my 3 goals are.
Yeah.
Is that a good start? Okay. So I want to, I've been keto, right, for over a year. So I'm looking to just overall improve.
Qualify your keto for everybody, because people have a different idea.
Oh, okay. So I'm looking to improve my high raw vegan keto diet.
Right.
So, I've been doing it for over a year, but I see that I feel like there's always room for improvement. So now that I know that I've been able to maintain it, I want to focus on expanding my menu. I have a lot of quick go-to foods because I like things that are fairly affordable. I've been just really struggling with coming up with a palatable green smoothie that has all the superfoods I want, that's low carb, but that's not repulsive to drink. It's like I need something tasty, and I just haven't set aside the time to do that. Like people make smoothies all the time, and you throw fruit at, you can make them so delicious. But when you focus on a low carb smoothie, and then you're adding spirulina or moringa, all the right greens, it loses its yumminess. So that's a goal, which sounds silly probably to the group, but for me, I feel like I'm missing out on these important nutrients that I'm probably not getting from my regular diet, because I just can't consume that many greens. So and that's actually something that's been on my, I'll put air quotes, plate for quite a while. So that's a big goal for me this year. Sounds silly.
Okay. How about
Yeah.
I just want to say, how about sharing with a group that you will gather around you who have similar goals?
Yeah, that's a tough group to find.
You would be surprised. People switching, people think keto can only be done with meat and
Right.
dairy, right?
Right.
and you're doing it without meat and without dairy, and it works. Obviously, you're alive, you look great at your age, and you know, you're fit and you're slender and all of that good stuff. Now I'm going to throw a little wrench in your pudding though, and that is that the brain for you, so that you can work out what it is that you need, requires sugars and fats. And if you can't give it enough sugars, you might want to work with the fats, you know, and find the sweetness via other things like stevia or
Oh, yes, exactly.
etc.
I do. I do
So,
use stevia, monk fruit. Right, right.
yeah. So we can talk more about that, but I'm just throwing it in there. Your
Yes.
brain needs those things in order to be able to work out what your questions are, kind of thing. It's ironic, you know, to put it that way, but it's true. Cool. But you got your, and no, I really do think you need to join a bunch of meat keto groups and demonstrate to them that you can do it in a different way. Literally, I mean that.
Well, I did just take a 4-day class. Well, it was kind of it was called Fasting While Feasting class by Dr. Rita. And it's based on keto. And surprisingly, she's actually plant-based and high raw herself, and has been doing that for many years. She has a functional medicine type of like
Beautiful.
university, you know,
Beautiful.
institute.
Now carry
Yeah.
your knowledge. That's what I mean. You know, if 2024 is not just about improving your own, but also carrying your mission into the world, that's why I'm saying, you know, join those crazy keto
Yeah.
groups and just, you know, comment. Well, great. That sounds really great. I can do the same thing with greens and other plant stuff, right? That's what I think is exciting, that you can bring that out there and rub a lot of people the wrong way, but they have to acknowledge that it works.
No,
All right,
you're right.
Regina, do you want to chime in? You have to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Regina.
Okay, one of my first goals is to increase my mobility, especially since I fell and dislocated my shoulder.
Mhm.
So I want to start with some stretching exercises and then move up to some other exercises and work with my PT, my physical therapist.
Yes, you may also want to look at Fitness Over 50. That's my fitness program. And it allows it approaches fitness in a very gentle way to increase muscle strength, and not so much on big stretches, although I do big stretches, as you can see at in the email that I just put out. I don't know whether you saw it, you know, with my leg up in the air there, 70 and with my leg up in the air. So my program is very gentle and achieves power through repetition. So just check it out. I mean, there's lots on YouTube, Fitness Over 50 on my YouTube channel, Johanna's Raw Foods.
Sounds great.
So
Okay,
just so you know, and of course, you know, you can always set up a time to talk to me if you wanted more of that. But you sound younger than some of
I'm 75.
you sound great.
And I was working up until November when I fell. I'm a nurse and I plan to retire on May 1st but we're out on workman's comp right now. So I'll just have to adjust that however this works out.
Awesome. And
Am I-
again, you know, I have a whole problem where a whole program, not a problem, a whole program where I help people become coaches. Linda has gone through it. That's why I said, you know, she can tell us more about that later. Where I help you evolve into something that works for you as a lifestyle. And it includes fitness.
Okay, my next goal is to have somebody come in and help me declutter.
Yes.
I actually have someone coming at 3 o'clock this afternoon to interview. I don't know if she'll be a good fit or not, but I'm at least I'm making a step in the right direction.
Congratulations. Decluttering. And again, I have a mastermind on clean and declutter. It's also on my YouTube. It's so important. And unfortunately, we have to do it again and again. It's not something that is done once and then stays, because unless we are very OCDC, where we just have to have things in order all the time, it just reclutters. I was just walking through my house this morning and saying, oh man, we're up for it. Yeah.
And my next goal is I have several little house repairs I need done. So I interviewed a handyman yesterday. Now I gave him a project. He's supposed to get back with me on Monday, but if he doesn't work out, I will keep looking at, because I don't need all these little things building up.
Mm-hmm.
And not getting repaired that needs to be repaired. I'm a very private person. So having somebody come in my home is like an invasion to me.
I hear you.
Sounds funny.
Oh,
But
it's very real. A little safer way to go and look for, I don't know whether you looked on, like, there's an Angie's list, I
yes,
think
I
it's
did.
called.
I
You
did
did.
on Angie's,
Mhm.
yeah.
Where people have reviews and so forth, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, I ask people whether they are going to be my assistants or whether they're going to be cleaning personnel, always for their own lifestyle and their understanding of, because I also want everything non-toxic, I don't want any,
Right. Bad chemicals.
yeah.
Right.
So make sure that you also ask people for whether they understand a non-toxic and non-chemical approach.
So this is a brave new front, letting people come into my house. I mean, I'm an extrovert at my job and all. It's just my home life is just very private.
Yeah. I hear you, and that's the truth for so many. I was just helping a client of mine, young teenager, write about Ella Fitzgerald, and we learned from her biography how incredibly shy she was and how self-doubting she was. But then she gets on stage and suddenly something releases in her and she feels like nothing can happen to her, and the audience carries her just emotionally, mentally, or spiritually maybe, and she's fine. And then she gets off the stage and she's back to this terribly shy person, right? So much so that people like Marilyn Monroe help her to get through to people who will then invite her to clubs, even though it's this time of segregation still, and Jim Crow is still kind of in place. So I'm just telling you, you are not alone, and often great people are very shy. So
Okay.
mm-hmm.
Well, thank you.
Go for it, Regina. So good. I hope to talk to you more. All right, Monique, can you talk about your main goals? Oh, no, you just talked about your, go ahead. Did I forget? Monique, can you unmute yourself? I don't know, she may not be present. And we lost Charlie again. Good, so I already told you what my goals are. Let's move on. What are all the little things, list of improvements? Just jot down things like our own character improvement. For example, I want to be both standing in my, like I said, my own authority, but I also want to spend a lot of time to understand the context from which people come with their opinions and belief systems, and often very irrational and illogical to me opinions on things, right? But when we understand humanity in a larger context, anyway, that's one of my things. So I want to be more understanding, yet standing in my authority and finding ways to explain things in a way that is not condescending and in a way that is not, bashing others for not understanding, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Not getting mad about the world for doing all this crazy stuff that goes on, but coming from an understanding, oh, because we have this system, that is why they act this way. Because we have this belief system that the more money, the better, the more control, the more money, and all of these are systems that we're stuck in. And when we keep reminding ourselves that they're stuck in this system, the important part is to work on the next system as opposed to complaining about the fact that it is like it is. So that's one of my things. And then there's little things like also the cleaning and decluttering, the regular cleaning, the making things pretty, the creating peace and beauty, the playing more piano. I have this big piano sitting there. It hasn't been tuned, so I don't feel like playing it. And, all of these things, the little things. So I want you to make a list of little things that you want to improve this year or get back to that you did earlier, or so all the little things. And I'm going to take a second too to write mine down, even though I was just talking like crazy, so that you can all have some quiet time thinking about what all your improvements are. Andrea keeps dropping out and coming back. It's almost like regular. All right, I'm sure you've come to quite a few things. Does anyone want to start sharing? And by the way, you don't have to you don't have to mute yourself all the time. You can just leave your unmute on unless you have loud noises in the background. Perfectly fine. So that there's so few of us, we can all talk to each other.
Well, excuse me, I'll start with the number one little thing, which is similar to your number one little thing, Johanna, and that is to listen more and to slow down. So similarly to allow someone to finish talking, even when, although I really find that difficult when I can see that their initial premise is like, no, you don't get what I'm saying. You're on the wrong path. I don't need an exposition. Let's clean this up now. But So I don't know how much I'm going to be able to chill on that, but in a general, as a general principle, to listen to people more.
Yes, you can go in your mind to, oh, I see why you are thinking that. I see where you're coming from. I see why your life has set you up to think like that. And
That's very condescending.
no,
It's very condescending to say that.
no,
Oh, well, I see
no.
why you think that because you're a limited nincompoop.
No, you don't.
I mean,
You don't need to add that you're a limited nincompoop. We all perceive and process according to our training, according to our imprint, according to our training, and then comes in the higher intelligence that we either connect with or not so much. And that again often is due to everybody's life experience. You know, just this morning I commented on a famous physicist's on physicists postings on TikTok. We can only perceive the reality according to how we see, hear the phenomena observed, and how we interpret them, and how we then interpret them into our existing system, into using the words we have, using the concepts we have. And all of those you could also see as projections into the world, right? And if you acknowledge that even my understanding of the world is a projection, then of course everybody else's interpretation of the world is a projection. And we can, to a certain extent, understand why they have a certain understanding. Why did people have the understanding that the sun circles around the flat earth, right? Because that's what they could see and hear, and they had no reason not to think that was the reality. That's just a simple example. So that's where I'm coming from when I'm saying allow yourself to understand nincompoop. Yes. Allow yourself to understand that people have a limited ability to see. And what always baffles me is people have a limited ability for logic, meaning that if I hold this pen, if I let go, it will drop, right? That's logic because I know there is such a thing as gravity. So when people have a limited understanding of logic, a lot of things go haywire, not high wire, haywire in their own minds. And then you have to find things that put things in order, like religion, like a political system, like something, a belief system that you can hold on to. So that's where I'm coming from when I'm saying understand the context. And while, yes, that may sound condescending to somebody who is listening to me, I still have to say, well, that's what I can see in my interpretation. And if that's what I can see in my interpretation, you see me in your interpretation. But is there any common ground? Do we have any logic? Do we have the logic that there's gravity, right? Maybe we start there. What other commonality do we have where we see things as a reality that works the same way? I have these arguments with people about capitalism, exploitation, super gain, etc., feudalism and colonialism, and all these various forms of the same system. These are systems. And the people caught in that system believe that they're doing the right thing, whether they're chopping other people to pieces or whether they're building roads for other people. It's always a projection of what our belief system allows for. So sorry for that long rant. Can somebody please chime in to the nincompoops? I love that, of course.
Hey, this is Regina.
Yes.
I think being more patient is something that I need to work on. I'm a night supervisor at the hospital which I work at, and I have to think on my feet a lot because the buck stops with me. You know, if we have a maintenance emergency, if we have some, you know, there's just all kinds of things that you handle in that position. And I seem to do that well, but being patient with myself. Also,
Yes.
I would like to improve my computer skills. There's a lot more I could learn. And you know, exploring meditation more.
Wonderful. There you have it. And those are all qualities that will enhance the big goals substantially.
All right. By the way, I love your glasses and the color of your sweater.
Thank you. I would wear these more, but these are real glass and they always fall off when I make a sudden movement or put them on my head. So yeah, they're cute. They're from Europe. Thank you. Well, that's also about, you know, having that thing for ourselves that we like to be in a shell that represents us, right? And my shell can be all kinds of things. Like I said, you know, sweatpants at the bottom and blazer at the top. Great. Linda, do you want to share your little improvements?
Yes, sure. So yeah, things I'd like to improve in 2024. I'd like to set up a routine to read every day, more consistent. You know, I buy books and they sit on the shelf and I just, you know, I do audiobooks. I just don't make time. And I think that's, I don't think my time could be better spent than to start reading more. I'd like to start journaling every day. I start journaling. I stop doing it. I get back in. I'm very intermittent with it. And I'd like to make that, you know, I guess this year I'd like to focus on consistent routines. So I'd like to journal more. I'd like to read more. I'd like to maybe be a little more social. I'm also, as you know, I'm pretty introverted and I don't actually venture out a lot. So I think just trying to make the effort to be a little bit more engaging or engaged with other people, my neighbors, just, you know, be a little bit more, you know, I get invited out to dinner, maybe I go, you know, stuff like that. So I think that would be good. And then for my diet, I have a habit of eating too close to my bedtime. So which I don't believe is good for me. And, you know, I know a lot about nutrition is intent. So I would like to focus on, you know, finishing my meal, wrapping up, you know, 4 o'clock, 5 at the latest. And then, yeah, because I'm usually in bed by 8, you know, I'm up at like 3:30, 4 o'clock. So I would much rather, which is fine because I mean, I do have a good exercise routine. I've got, you know, I don't mind. The morning time is just the best for me. I enjoy it. So that's what I'd like to do.
Yes. I have several colleagues who do that, including my business coach, you know, who goes to sleep at 8:30 with her son, and gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning and does her alone time.
Yeah.
But others also in the business world, also successful, like, what's her name? Pretty Crazy Cancer.
Oh,
Chris, yeah. You know, she says, I'm not a morning person. My life starts at 10 or 11, right? In the morning. And then it goes late at night. But, you know, it does not impact the success rate. Picasso was a night person, right? And so many artists have all these different agendas. So I'm just saying there's no one way of structuring your day correctly. It really, I also want to put that out there for everybody. Even when I teach the Evolve system, it's very important that everybody adapts it to their personal, biological, biochemical, and societal needs, right?
Right.
We all have different, I used to argue, well, I have teenagers and young adults in my house, and they have a late night lifestyle, and I want to join them in discussions at 11 o'clock at night or at midnight, right? And I love that. So that's not always going to be my excuse. I just have to come to terms with the fact that I'm not a 5 o'clock a.m. person.
Mhm.
And it's okay. I have to be okay with it. I don't have to have the ambition of shifting that. And vice versa. And there are others. I was just remembering when I lived in Berlin with my writer, director, film director partner, and he would write until 2 a.m. because that was his thing to write, right? But I would go to sleep at 10, 11 and be out doing my music stuff or my one-woman shows or whatever I was doing, rehearsing. We can make that work even with a partner. When he crawled into bed in the middle of the night and we would cuddle for a few minutes with me completely asleep, but I loved that. So, you can make that work too. It doesn't have to be that both are on the same schedule even. Yeah, just so you know. There's no judgment on when you have your schedule. That goes for you too, Andrea. Find the time that works for you. It doesn't have to be every morning at 9 o'clock sharp. For some people, that works to have an exact time, because otherwise they will always be self-judging, oh my God, I didn't get this done again. That's not helpful. Do it whenever you can, but do it. All right, Shirley, do you want to chime in the chat what your improvements are this year? I see that you say your microphone is not working. But well, we'll see it if you do chime in. So Monique, do you want to comment on the someone else and when you really ask your heart self what that means to your life? I mean, sometimes there's also financial dependence, or you have kids together and, all of those kind of things. If you want to comment on that or find a couple of things that you can improve no matter which way the pendulum goes. Yeah. Nobody's judging here. We're all in love. Go for it. We hear you breathing, but we don't hear your words. And if you say you're not ready, that's fine too. Or put it in the chat. Okay, don't want to talk is fine too. Allow yourself to embrace whatever goes on emotionally right now with you, and give yourself a big hug from all of us. Again, it's you that matters. All right. Moving on, I know it's our time is getting longer here, so moving on to 3 more things that we need to become aware of. Number 1, your big why for your goal this year. Your big why is often hard to define, but try to find one definition of your big why. Number 2 is, which are the people that will be in support of you and that can help you? It's not necessarily the same. Sometimes, you know, that we have personal friends who will support us emotionally or share food or, you know, talk things through while going on a walk. You know, I love doing that with friends. But also people maybe in like last year or the year before, I got a lot of grants and things like that. Also people in other power positions who can help or benefit you for your projects or your goals or hire you, or, you know, there's many things that can be helpful in your progress. And that's what I want you to focus on as a second position here. So number 1, your big why. Number 2, people and avenues that will help. People that will help, because it's always people that make the decisions, even if you apply for grants and stuff like that. Or find investors or so forth. And number 3, who can help you with accountability and the follow through? Of course, 2 and 3 kind of go hand in hand, but it's important that you have people to hold you accountable. Now, when you're in a group, like in a program where others are also pursuing their goal, that's where I wanted to have Linda chime in. Then you have others who are pursuing their goals, and they can be different, but they're holding you accountable because you have to present what you achieved during the week or month that just passed when you join such a program, right? So of course, my program being the Super Happy Body program and the Evolve system, but there are many programs out there that are helpful and hold you accountable. Unfortunately, with friends, it's really difficult because there is no structure. You can work through with friends. That's why it's point 2, right? But they won't be the strict structure that is holding you accountable month after month after month. As much as I've tried that all my life with friends, it just never quite works out. But a coach will hold you accountable. Others in your class or in your meetup group that is really where you're committing to something, they will hold you accountable. And then you'll hold yourself accountable. So we all need community to do that for ourselves. And yeah, for me, I have a couple of groups that I need to join, not just on paper or not just on the internet, but actually physically go to them. Like what Linda was saying, you know, physically go to the groups that I've signed up for and be there and join their agendas to a certain extent. Okay, so number 1, your why. Number 2, people who can help. Number 3, accountability. Everybody done? Okay, not yet. Take another minute. Monique, when you say the other person wants no contact with me, and that's my goal, is your goal no contact, or is your goal establishing contact even though they don't want contact? I'm not understanding that. Just say A or B. A being that you want them to have no contact. B being that you're trying to get in contact. That you're trying to get in contact with somebody who doesn't want contact. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. I have people in my life and surroundings who are trying to get in contact with their own parents or with their own children, and it doesn't happen. And while, yeah, I have a younger sister, some of you have heard me talk about her, who is mentally outside of the range we call normal. And for many years, I tried to connect and basically streamline her into something that can function in this world. And then there was a point in time where I said to myself and to her mentally, you chose this life on your own with your way of doing life. Who am I to impose what I consider normal? You chose this life, of course, comes from a point of view where we understand that when we, or when I, the being, comes into this incarnation, into this physical body, into this form, we already have made some choices. Sometimes, and very often, those choices change during the life experience, but sometimes they don't. And yeah, sometimes we've put an enormous amount of effort in helping somebody who cannot in this lifetime accept or have that help. And it can be the other way around too. We're trying to get somebody to see that they can help us, and it is not happening. So, and everybody has to find that point in time where that is, where we say, okay, now I understand that that's your way. I don't know whether this is helpful, but I just wanted to put that out there as my experience. And I know that many have connected with that experience, whether they were my clients or family and friends. Yeah. All right, let's have a few ideas of those who are ready with their big why, people who help, and accountability. Who wants to start?
I'll
Big
start.
why? Okay, you go,
I'll
Linda.
start.
Awesome.
So my big why, I guess my, my whole, I feel like there's an echo and I'm sorry about that. I don't know why.
It's not on this end.
Okay.
Good.
So my big why, I guess I would say my whole life has been focused around nutrition since my 20s when I went vegetarian, then vegan, then, focused on raw food. And, I'm always evolving. And it seems like whatever I'm doing in my life, my primary focus is on nutrition and my well-being, and, sharing that knowledge if people are receptive or open to it. So I'd say that's still my big why. Whatever I decide to do, this year, I'm still thinking about what my next chapter is going to be, when I retire, just in a couple of years, and just what what I want my focus on. And I think it's going to, my big why is always just surround, it's always just around nutrition. So
Yeah, beautiful.
my
Mhm.
people to support me, I have to say my husband's super supportive. He's always been supportive. He might think that my ideas are wacky and out there. I mean, we have completely opposite diets. We have,
Still?
completely the opposite. He
Wow,
probably,
congratulations to you for balancing that.
yeah, he's exactly the opposite. He's yeah, if he doesn't get meat every 3 hours, I think he'd collapse. That's just, we're very different on that, but we were different when we met, and it's just been, we're different in other ways, but that's been a pretty big one. Um, and then I think, but he's always been, like I say, very supportive, and anything I've pursued, he rallies behind me. He'll try to find people that can help get me where I want to be. When I first, was thinking about doing something around coaching, many years ago, he was trying to set me up with a chiropractor and get me in my own office where I could do consultations. He's always like that, and it's always me that puts the brakes on. Says, "Oh, I don't, I'm not ready. Oh, or I'm too shy to really get started and jump into this type of a lifestyle, and and then the whole, we're going to make money doing this, and is this something sustainable? It's, there's so much surrounding that. But he's, so I'd say he's probably my biggest ally as far as supporting me. And for accountability, I I don't know. I'd like to think I could be self accountable, but I like I say, I have routines that I have very, very honorable intentions that never quite manifest. Like I said, the whole smoothie thing I've been thinking about for, going on 2 years. And again, I just don't get around to it. So I don't know. I'd have to think about getting into, like you say, finding a support group, or doing, something where there's some level of, well, did you get that done? Did you do that again? Did you get, and
Yeah,
and
wasn't that a little better when you were in class with us?
that's exactly, my segue into that did make a huge difference in my progress.
Yeah.
100%. So,
I mean, the bottom line is we all need that. It's
right.
just a fact. Yeah. I mean, there are very, very few people who are entirely self-driven. I mean, even I just recently did this whole podcast about Cat Williams and integrity and why it matters, but here's a genius kid who literally sits in the library for 8 hours every day and studies and studies and studies because he reads 8 books a day. One of those photographic memory brains that just page, 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 page. Oh, I already know what this chapter is about. Next page, etc. Right? And it works. But you have to have an IQ of 163, I think he says he has, and Mensa member and all of that. But we most of us don't have that. But even that, of course, gives a framework. If the library people know you're there 8 hours every day, you want to show up and show off, right? That's what you can do. So it is also kind of an accountability system that you set for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
allow yourself those kind of structures that help you show up for yourself in the ways where your weaknesses are. And of course, I'm happy to talk more about that with you. All right. Who wants to go next? Andrea or Monique or Regina? Shirley, you can put in the chat. Monique, are you ready? I'm seeing you you unmuted yourself or just staying unmuted. That's fine too. Regina?
Yeah, I want peace. That's very important to me. I don't feel a lot of peace.
You don't feel a lot of peace?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I always ask my spiritual guides to help me every day because they're there. So I think if I do some of these things, I will gather a better sense of peace.
Yeah.
My son, even though he lives in Seattle, he is very good at saying to me, well, have you done this? Did you do that? My daughter, she does, but she's an extremely different personality from me. But she does, you know, try to coach me and see if I'm doing what I voiced to her. What was the third thing? I can't remember.
Well, that's you just spoke to accountability. The middle thing was friends and avenues with people that will help you implement what you want. So if you're saying you're looking for more peace or you're looking for more structure in your life, it would be that you could join a meditation group. You could apply for whatever, a scholarship to travel to India and join an ashram for a few months, or, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm just pulling things out of the top of my head. But if you feel that something would move you toward that inner peace, find those avenues, not just among your friends, but also out there that can, and it always involves, of course, people, because none of this is without human beings, right? It doesn't exist without
Right.
human beings creating peace in your life. You could also say, okay, I want to go into the woods every other day and sit under a particular tree and meditate there. That, of course, is also working toward your peace and does not necessarily involve other people. However, it is easier when we put it out there with others who are also pursuing, for example, meditation, to then be able to report on that we did, right? Once we put it out there, once I say, you know, I'm going to complete my book this year, I have put it out into the world, and I have much more of an obligation to myself to complete that plan. And that's why it's important to put it out to other human beings who hold it in their memory that we have said this, and we want to live up to that standard that we put out there. Does that make sense?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So,
I
yeah.
live in a very small southern town.
Mm-hmm.
I have tried to find unity groups, other things to get to where those people are, unless I start my own group.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to travel 60 miles or so.
Yeah, and again, you know, you may be in a small town, but in that small town, there may be a couple of people who are curious about what breathing and meditation are, right? Maybe
Mhm.
start with a group that does things that are so much in the interwebs and in everybody's mind, you know, Wim Hof breathing and an ice bath. Oh my God. You know,
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
That's
Think
really interesting. Wim Hof has come up a lot the last week.
there you go. Yeah. And you may find that your neighbor who never was into anything new age or spiritual, right, is
Mhm.
curious about how that thing works with cold water. You don't know. or how that thing works with making huge salads, or whichever other approach it is that people can connect to. I have often spoken in libraries where regular people, and again, this is not condescending, people who have never tried raw food and all they can think of is literally salad, right? That's all that's on their mind, come to these lectures and are like, wow, I just learned so much. Nobody has ever spoken to me about the fact that biology on planet Earth operates all alive. And alive means every live thing needs live nutrients. Everything, right? And of course, I go into all kinds of details, but they suddenly understand a new way of looking at things, even though I brought them together by saying, you know, make more salads or something like that.
Okay.
Find your way. But, and again, I'm happy to talk to you about that in more detail, you know, what that can look like, connecting with the community in ways that you may not have previously explored or thought possible, because
Specifically for a seminar. Seminar online.
yeah, because we also often isolate ourselves so much, because like Andrea was saying, you know, the nincompoops get on our nerves with not understanding basic things, whereas we could go to, oh, give me the answer. How does the deer eat the bark? Does it put the bark on a grill first? Or, you know, anyway, I have my crazy stories in my lectures, whereby I make it funny and fun to connect with other people. That's the same approach I would suggest to Linda going into meat keto groups. Yeah. And again, you know, I'm happy to talk to you about that more. Andrea, coming from a psychology approach, allow people to self-analyze and analyze each other, and listening to their interpretation of what they see before you show your view. I found that to be very, very helpful. And I'm actually, as I'm talking, reminding myself that that is what I do when I lecture in places like libraries, where regular people who just want to learn how to make a salad dressing by themselves, you know, are suddenly interested in what it can do for their body and for their health to include more fresh food in their diets. All right. Wonderful conversations. And I want to wrap up with the fact that, of course, we're still all caught in a divisive system where we have these little groups that hold tight, and you're not supposed, if you're in this group, you're not supposed to go into that group ever or find anything that that group does correct, or, you know, because then you're immediately ousted. Oh, she's gone, you know, oh, she's gone bad because she's joined the opposition, or, but seeing humans as individuals caught in systems and groupings allows you a much freer understanding and a much freer contextualizing, I call that, putting things into the context of the time we live in, of the history stream that we live in, and seeing how that stream is allowing you, especially since we're all women here, right? We are coming into our own, we are coming into our individual intellectual ability to express and participate in the leading of humanity, the leadership of humanity. It's an amazing time to be alive. And I want you all to have that as a closing thought. You're here, and if you're listening to this later, you're listening to this because you're moving into a time where you come into your feminine leadership. And as a man, you're allowed to bring forth more of your feminine powers, not losing your masculinity. That's not what I'm saying, but we all have both. And just as we women discover some of our masculine traits, you're allowed to discover some of your feminine traits. And that's the next era of partnership. All right. It has been lovely for you to be here and to have you here. Please look up Real Humans, Great Souls is my podcast. I'm putting it in the I talk a little bit more openly about things. Like I said, I'm trying to be more authentic without getting kicked off. And just another thing is also for you, Andrea, the fact that we can say to ourselves and to others, well, I think differently because I know so much is okay, because we do know so much, right? And it's not the other person's fault that they don't know so much. And of course, we also have to admit that the more we know how little we know. So there's just always so much more to know. Yes, you're responding? Mm-hmm. Talk to me.
I think it's 90 minutes. I think it's time for a wrap. And
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah. I'm just putting this out there. And of course, you find me on johannesrawfoods.com. Make contact with me. All of you listening to this later, you will be able to connect and have a great 2024. Mwah. Everybody want to say goodbye?
Good luck, everybody.
Bye. Okay, signing off.